Hey everyone, welcome to the 351st episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. This episode is brought to you by patron Kyle McConaughey and our buddy Hart Perez, who just stopped me at a restaurant last night and told me hello, which made me really happy because no one has ever said hi to Matt before that's a fan of the podcast, but I get it all the time. Anyhow, I'm Oren Kaplan.
And I'm Matt Enlow. Today we've got Joe Begos on the show. He's the director of Christmas, Bloody Christmas, and also previous neon-drenched horror films VFW and Bliss, among others. It's an awesome conversation. I had so much fun. He really epitomizes just shooting it, but also blows up cars, breaks glass, does all these crazy stunts, takes over towns. It's truly an inspiring, super fun conversation.
I mean, my favorite part of this talk is just him saying that producers tend to tell you what you can't do because it's too expensive. And then he just goes on like Amazon.com and proves them wrong. He's like, we can do this. We can make our own thing. We can buy this car and we can blow it up. What's the big deal? And sometimes you think of something that sounds very expensive, you know, like a big stunt, a big car thing, a big something. But when you look at the nuts and bolts of like, how much does it actually cost? You know, if you're making a movie for $100,000 and you can get this like insane stunt for $3,000, then it's probably worth it.
Yeah, you should do it. Flip that car over. I can't tell you how many times I would do double takes while we're talking where you just be like, yeah, and then we made our own breakaway glass and I don't know, was it this or that or whatever? And I'm like, wait, hold on, what? And I think that you and I are pretty hands-on DIY guys. You know, we're down to try things out or put cameras in weird places or go source a thing ourselves all the time. This conversation really made me feel like, oh, what am I doing? I should be home brewing my own breakaway glass in my oven right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it didn't make me feel old necessarily, but it made the contrast between indie film and commercial directing like, incredibly stark because he's basically making movies for himself and we are directing mainly for other people. It's never clearer than when you're like, fuck it, I'm going to jump on the, you know, on the hood of this car and film the actor through the window as they crash through a fence. You just could never, ever do that on anything that we work on recently. I have done that. I mean, I think almost all of us starting out, you know, have stuck our head and camera out a sunroof and filmed something.
Man, back in the day, we used to do that stuff on a big network TV show. We would do it all the time. We would lean out of cars all the time. In open traffic.
Oh, yeah.
Just like in the valley, just like in Burbank. And I think we got in trouble for it, which is good. Because I was like, I don't know that this is like, can't we just do this the right way, everyone? We were not doing it the right way. It was unsafe and I regret it, actually. But that's different than what Joe's describing. And I think that if listeners take anything away from the show in general, it's just go shoot it. But also like this conversation should excite you, should motivate you, and should remind you that just because people do it a certain way doesn't mean it has to be done that way. And we are all privileged with growing up in the era of YouTube and cheap cameras. And there's a lot of stuff you can figure out yourself that you used to have to like literally, you know, go to a weird warehouse in Burbank to buy or go to a library and become a chemist to figure out. And like Joe's just doing it. And it was a really fun conversation. I'm really glad that we made it happen.
Yeah, I mean, the other interesting thing is that he shoots all his movies on 16 millimeter film, no matter what the budget is, which, you know, to us is like, that must be so expensive. But he's done, you know, like $200,000 movies on 16 millimeter film. And his last movie is a $2 million movie. So it's called Christmas, Bloody Christmas, and it is out right now. It is definitely Christmassy and definitely bloody. And you can watch it on Shudder.
I don't think we normally do any sort of adult warnings, but this one I think maybe there's maybe a few more F-bombs than normal and stuff. So if you've got kids in the car, you don't want them to hear about that or about some of the dangerous stuff that, you know, people pull off trying to make a great movie, then maybe skip this one. But for everyone else, strap the F in.
What do you mean by the F? Just for clarity.
Fart. Strap the farts in because it's such a good episode that you got to hold them in because you don't want to be distracted by anything.
before we talk to Joe, I want to remind everyone we have a Patreon, patreon.com/justshootitpod. It's a place you can go and just tell us that you like the show. We have a bunch of fans on there and we really, really appreciate it. You know, if you feel like you get anything out of this, maybe we helped you book something. Maybe you had a job you were nervous about and then Matt and I talked about a worse way to do it and made you more confident all of a sudden. If you at all feel like this show is helpful to you and you want to help support it, help pay our editor and all of our web serving things and all those other things, go to patreon.com/justshootitpod. If you join at the $20 level, even for 1 month, you'll get a Just Shoot It hat. It just, was on a shoot at the Universal lot, and a lot of people
very cool
saw it and were instantly jealous of me. A lot of very successful people were like, where can I get this hat? And I told them on my podcast, and they said, oh, you have a podcast? And then I was like, yeah, and I started telling them about it, and they just walked away. Anyhow, Just Shoot It Pod. Check us out on Patreon. We appreciate it greatly. And let's go on with the show. Joe, hello.
How's it going, man?
Joe Begos, thanks for joining us on a Saturday.
Yeah.
It's been a very long time since we recorded on the weekend.
Yeah, truly.
But you're in the middle of production.
Right, after midnight on the weekday or on the weekend. So I don't want to do a weeknight, but
I imagine since you work in horror a lot, what percentage of your shoots would you say are night shoots?
Well, I've reached my final form of the Christmas movie. Was every single night was 38 straight night shoots, not one.
Man,
I wanted to do VFW all nights because the movie takes place all night, but my entire cast was like 70, so that didn't really.
they were like, no, we won't do that.
So like it was like 8 hours of nighttime, but it worked out because we had a little bit of daytime stuff. But in order to do like a proper day, we would do 12-hour days, and at the start of day, we would do like 4 daytime shots. So that's why, thank God, all of our daytime shots are at sundown.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, we're going to shoot in sequence for the most part, and let's just pop off like 3 shots today of daytime. So, I mean, I wish everything could be at sundown. That's why I'm doing the movie now. But like that schedule worked out perfectly because we'd never go over, and we got to do night shoots every single day, and we got fucking Tony Scott sundown every single day for all the daytime shots. So like that's the way I want to go from now on. If I do have any sort of daytime shots in my movie, it's like shoot it all the last 45 minutes of the day. So it's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
And you never get stressed out about like losing, like not getting a scene or a stunt not working or something, and like you just losing the light.
Yeah, that shit always happens, but that's like the nature, or that's the beauty of it, because it's like unless I'm in a location for one day, you're not gonna be able to get that shit. But like being in LA, I was able to just like pop out and like let's go get a couple city shots, or we're in the loft, let's get these couple shots before it becomes nighttime, and we're able to wrangle all those and kind of malleably push it to the next day. And thankfully, I never have anybody breathing down my neck, so I'm able to like arrange schedules and stuff and always get what I want. And I own like 16 cameras, so every single movie I've done, I've gone out, during editing and just popped up shots that we owe. Even in the Christmas movie, like we did 4 days of shooting in LA, and you'd probably be shocked to know the stuff that we actually did shoot in LA. But
and is it insert stuff? Is it like, oh, like you can't tell that we're blending scenes together or things like that, or like what specifically were you guys stealing in those 4 days?
Well, with the Christmas movie, it was like definitely inserts, and then there's a couple like effect shots that I shot in my apartment. All the commercials at the beginning we shot like 5 days before we had to deliver. All those commercials in my apartment, besides the one with the family.
Where was the one in the family with the one with the family?
Williamson. We shot that in Burbank at his house.
Oh, okay.
I had with kids who would have done it for free and allowed to put his kids or allowed him to put his kids in the movie.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, man, that's cool. I love that. I think I want to talk a little bit more about the 16 millimeter thing, but I think one of the things Oren and I talk about all the time is how nice it is to just be able to like go grab one of those insert shots and how flexible and malleable your film can be, just being able to like be like, oh fuck, I need a hand on a doorknob is always the example. Like just go shoot it.
We actually shot a hand on a doorknob for VFW in my bathroom.
There you go, man. There you go. Well, so I'm curious, you've got like this awesome track record and a very clear aesthetic, right? Of like You're leaning heavy into like saturated neon colors, right? That's like a thing that certainly Christmas Bloody Christmas is doing, but it looks like Bliss and VFW are kind of like at least hinting at now, and it feels like you've like just fucking embraced it pretty head on. And also, you're shooting 16 millimeter, right? And so I'm curious, you know, I haven't shot a ton of film in my career, or really any, to be honest. And I love that you're doing this kind of like throwback, almost homage aesthetic. Tell us why 16 millimeter, and maybe some of the surprising pros and some of the surprising cons of shooting with it.
Well, I just, ever since I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker, I don't know, my whole life, I guess, I just was always attracted to the look of film.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a teenager, I thought it was cool that they were releasing all these dope digital cameras that I could learn shit on, but I still always love the aesthetic of film, and people who are still shooting on film, like Aronofsky, with The Wrestler and Black Swan and shit like that, and Irreversibles on 16. I was just always so attracted to the look of it. I always wanted to shoot on it, and my first couple movies were so low budget that I just shot on digital. And with Bliss, I actually had less money than my previous movie. I only had like 200 grand, and I really like one thing about that was like, we'll do it bare bones, guerrilla style, but I want to shoot on 16. I think it's going to lend itself. It needs to look like fucking old school 70s
Mm-hmm.
New York City exploitation, basically. So we figured it out, and I just budgeted the movie around shooting on 16.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell in love with the process so much and the way that it looked that I just made the call that I was going to do that on every movie. And then of course VFW. That's the only movie I've made so far where I kind of had somebody who could veto decisions that I made, and they wouldn't let me shoot 16, and
Mm-hmm.
very annoying. But since then, I've now bought cameras, and there's really nobody who can tell me. Like it's like, if you don't want me to shoot on 16 of a cost thing, I'll just fucking use my cameras for free, and it'll offset the cost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or like on Christmas, I could just rent my cameras to the production at the same price a rental house would, and make money back on the cameras. But like, it's also the thing where even at this point, 16 millimeter, it's like scientifically better than digital. I mean, 16 millimeter has higher resolution than fucking 8K,
Mm-hmm.
65 fucking cameras. So, I mean, we're probably one of the only industries where the technology has, for some reason, went backwards. And sure, you could argue that it's an ease of use, especially back, like when Michael Mann was doing Collateral because of like nighttime footage and all that. But I mean, you guys look at the Christmas movie, and I shot that movie on anamorphic 1.5 lenses. The stock is so fast now. Like that scene where it's following them down the road, that's just
Mm-hmm.
practical lighting. We didn't light that fucking street. We hooked up all those Christmas lights, but that's practical lighting, and we're getting all that exposure. So like, it's not even a
Mm-hmm.
fucking lighting thing anymore. It's a slight cost thing, but we're at the point where they've developed the film to be so fast, they've developed lenses to be so fast. And it's like, I mean, I'm loading film on the movie I'm shooting now myself. It takes fucking 10 seconds a roll. It's like, I don't understand. I think the people who, always downplay the hardships of shooting on film have never actually done it, because I'm constantly explaining to my filmmaker friends who are like, 5-6 movies deep. And like Travis Stevens, he just did a Wounded Fawn. I was fucking on his house. I'm like, dude, just fucking shoot
Yeah,
him.
we know Travis.
And he was like, he did it on a Wounded Fawn. He's like, oh, you're right. You're right. And I'm like, yeah, I just wish that more people would do it, because now it's going to, the more filmmakers, especially indie, that do it, the more accessible certain things are going to become, or the more accessible equipment is going to become, or like, houses that can develop or scan stuff. So yeah, I always want to be able to shoot on film. It's just better. It looks better. And, you get the argument that a lot of people are like, well, the general audience can't tell that it was shot on film. Does it really matter? And it's like, I agree that there's a larger chunk of the audience that can look at two images and say, I can't tell the difference. But I feel like if you're watching a movie, there's a subtextual quality to something that's shot on film that draws you into the performance more. And I actually think that, I don't know if it's by nature of the actors knowing they are being shot on film and they can't watch their takes, or it's by nature of just the organic process of the chemical look of the film. But I feel like performances are just inherently better. Effects look better, because I always shoot practical effects anyway, so it helps cover up those scenes. It makes I just feel like it makes everything look better, and a lot of people don't notice that when they're looking at two images next to each other. It's like digital versus film, but it's just like the organic moving quality of watching draws you in more. And and when you asked about cons, I don't think there's any cons. I mean, sure, it costs a little bit more, but anything good. I mean, yeah, if you want cool effects, it's going to cost more. If you want a fucking explosion, it's going to cost more.
Sure. Yeah, that's filmmaking. Yeah, I love that, man. Yeah, that's wild.
Sorry, about the effects. I mean, you could still do visual effects if you shoot film, right? I mean, you're still editing.
Yeah, I've never
digitally.
done like actual CG, but all my movies have wire removal or comp or like. Have you guys seen VFW?
I haven't seen it. No.
Okay, there's a shot. Well, actually, it's fucking never mind. It's shot on digital, but we could have done it on film. But there's a shot that basically like, it's on a crane and it's zooming as it pans into a car, and we had the entire highway that surrounds the VFW removed for the entire movie, like with all these shots without even doing props. I mean, you can do all that same shit on film. So like, it's just grain. You know, we shoot grain plates so that the visual I can just replace the grain. And I mean, yeah, there's absolutely no difference whatsoever. And when we edit too, like we bring it to PhotoCam and we just get drives back that has the footage digitized to however we want, and you know, just like.
And then you're off to the races. Post-wise, do you go back and like conform on film, or is it just like once it's digitized that it just is that's the chain from there on out?
Yeah, that's been the deal with all of our movies. And then I make 35 prints, but it's from the digital master. You know, I've got all the dailies sitting in my fucking closet, which I guess might be a con because now it's like it's a big fucking amount of film that's stacked up.
Yeah. It's a lot of hard drives either way, though, right? Like it's all stuff.
Stuff like Once I'm in Hollywood and Licorice Pizza. Those movies were they cut on digital and then they went back and actually had a negative cut or cut them, and they do look. You can notice a slight difference. But that's a big cost. I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford if it got to that point.
And what about, just because I am one of those guys, Joe, where I'm like, yeah, I'd spend the money elsewhere, put it in front of the camera or whatever. But you're making a very convincing argument that I'm very curious about. What about just the amount of footage that you're capable of shooting, like the cost of actual film? Do you know what I mean? Like, did you ever feel limited with the amount of takes you get or anything like that?
No, because when we first started or when we did it on Bliss, we looked at our shooting ratio on our previous movie and budgeted for around that. Because I don't like run the camera usually. I mean, sometimes we'll do 6 takes and sometimes I'll do 2 takes. But like I said, with actors, I think they're more on point, and I like to rehearse a lot anyway, just because by nature of how I make my movies, there's we're almost like, you know, growing organisms where we're rehearsing and riffing and building stuff up. So I do a lot of rehearsal anyway, which I guess lends itself to shooting on film. But like there were things in Christmas where we're doing 7, 8, 9 takes of long dialogue scenes just because, like that oneer, you know, in the dolly where they talk about Farmhouse and all that shit. Like I wrote that an hour before we shot it because we had 4 hours, and we shot, you know, 10 takes of that 2-minute scene, and we still came in like I had 20 rolls of fucking film left over that I was able to put in my fridge after we shot because we actually came under. So I just budget for what my usual shooting ratio is, really like 6 to 1 or something like that. And honestly, like I said, like with Bliss, it was $60,000 all in back to shoot on film. We made the rest of it for 140. But I think that 60, it's like, yeah, you could argue, oh, I'll put that elsewhere, but I mean, you could look at that movie, and where would you put the 60? I guarantee you think it looks bigger than a $200,000 movie, and that's by nature of the film. Like, even if you watch a trailer for Bliss, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I mean, like, the entire thing is in a loft in front of downtown LA with a giant fucking 40-foot window with the sun going down in front of it. And if I shot that in digital, the window would be blown out the entire film. We have exposure on the fucking setting sun over the city in front of her. I mean, behind her, with her exposed, and it's like the multiple levels of exposure that you're getting. Like, if you shot that on a red, the entire fucking thing would be blown out. You'd have to have 5Ks pointed at her, fucking diffuse the windows, and then now you're losing 6 hours setting it up with the 16. You just put a daylight filter in and fucking shoot it, and it looks like a goddamn Tony Scott movie from 1992. So, like, I mean,
man,
there's like minute things that people don't think about besides just like, well, the cost is this. It's like, yeah, but think about this aspect, you know?
Sure. Yeah. The man hours that it takes to like get things. No, man, I fucking love it. And I was like, I have a hunch this is going to be a good conversation. So let's lead with it.
Well, yeah. We talked about this a couple of years ago, but did you watch the last Project Greenlight?
The last one I watched was, the guy who shot the indie on film.
Yeah. And he fought. He was like, this one decision affects every single frame of the movie.
Yeah.
You know? All these other things, a better car crash, a better this, a better that, is like, sure, maybe this moment might be a little higher production value, or this a little better, you know, this location's more expensive, but He's like, but this one thing touches every frame. And even though I'm with Matt, like I love digital stuff. I love rolling rolling all day and burning through hard drives. I did respect, like I thought that was like, even though that guy was like kind of a tyrant, I thought that reasoning was pretty valid, like, hey, I want to make a decision on how my movie looks. And I think this one decision is probably going to be one of the biggest differences.
Yeah. Well, and what I like the most out of all of this, Joe, is that, like, your bottom line is like, because it's important to me in the film, it's going to make everything better. So let's work around it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's easy to compromise with independent film. Do you know what I mean? You're making a $200,000 movie or whatever your budget is. It's easy. It can be death by 1,000 cuts, right? And so I think that was part of why I was excited to talk to you. It was like, oh, I think this is a guy who maybe has figured out how to be like, you can't tell me no, right? So tell me a little bit more about, you were saying before that like VFW was the only film where there was someone else, another party who had kind of decision-making power over you. So that means then the rest you're kind of just doing independently without any kind of overlord. Walk us through what is a Joe movie. How does it work now? What's your model? What's your system? How are you making films? How are you cranking them out so hard?
I think my thing is I don't really care about budget as long as it's something, I with a livable wage while I'm making it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mind's Eye or, Almost Human. Just me and my buddy made on credit cards for like 25 grand and sold it for profit, thankfully. And then we were able to like piecemeal Mind's Eye. That was about 400 grand from like 20 different investors because we made money on Mind's Eye. So it kind of just went out and, Zach Zeman, who financed like VHS movies, gave us put in a portion, which then like we were able to kind of go on top of that. And then Bliss, somebody came to me and they were like, I got 200 grand to make a movie. Do you think you can do it? And I didn't care that it was less than Mind's Eye. I was just like, yeah, let's go fucking do it. Let's figure out. Let's look at Mind's Eye and all the issues all the things that I think I can do better or that I know I fucked up on. And that's also another thing is not having somebody making those decisions. If something fucks up in my movie or something's not good, I can take responsibility from it and learn from it. Where if somebody else makes a decision that I don't like, you can't do that. So with Bliss, I did the same thing. And, I think that just like with my first two movies, I proved that, me and my producing partner can deliver a movie from blank page to releasable master without going over budget or over schedule. And that was what was appealing to the Bliss financier. And then VFW, I came onto that movie because I actually signed on to that movie before Bliss got financed because I couldn't fucking get anything made. And it was the first movie I was offered that I liked the script, even though I completely overhauled it. And I knew that company could get me like names of some sort, which I thought was important to have on my resume, that I could work with actors of a certain caliber, going forward on my independent movie. So it was kind of like one of those things where it was like, there's benefits to this, and I want to make a movie, but then Bliss, I got the money for Bliss while I was in pre-production of VFW, and I was like, hey, let's pause this movie because I'm going to go make Bliss. And they weren't happy about that, but I did it anyway. And then we didn't even cast the movie. Like, I was like, let me shoot it, and if we get a cast, then I'll sideline it. And literally, it took forever to get a cast, and I went and made Bliss, and I left the set of VFW on a Saturday morning. It was so funny because I was shooting an exploding car. I put the camera down, got in a car, went to the airport from Dallas, flew to New York City, got off the plane in New York City, went to my Tribeca premiere of Bliss, partied all night, got on a plane, flew back to Dallas, got off the plane, and went back and started shooting VFW again.
Shouldered up again. Love that. Yeah, I noticed in the credits that you're a cam operator as well. That's fun, man.
Yeah, I know. And I DP'd my first two movies too. Bliss was the first one I didn't, just because I wanted somebody. I had never shot film before, so I was nervous about that at the time. But then with Christmas, I was shopping it around, and basically the idea was like we didn't need a production company; we just needed somebody to finance the movie. So we weren't looking for like a company to come in and help us develop. We weren't looking for like a Spectre Vision or somebody like that. We're just looking for an entity that will finance the movie. And thankfully at the time, Shudder and RLJ was, because of COVID and like their lack of festivals, they were trying to model where they were just going to cash flow movies. And they liked our script, and I was just like, well, you guys financed VFW and all these other movies. The producers on VFW are different than the financiers. Like RLJ and Shutter finance VFW, but I had another company in between. Those are the rules. But so they came in there, and I was like, all right, well, me and my buddy Josh are going to be the producers, and they're like, yeah, that's fine. You know, you have a track record, and you know, they literally did not come on set. They didn't bother us. We could do whatever the fuck we wanted as long as we delivered the movie by September 1st or whatever it was. They could release it. And, you know, it was kind of part of just the deal going in. It's like, we've got 4 movies and, you know, you saw the quality of VFW compared to the other ones in that slate you guys did. You've seen what we've done. Like, we're in this, you know, and thankfully for me, I was able to, you know, negotiate all that stuff, and I could do whatever I wanted as long as it was on budget and I delivered the script that they read, like essentially. And you know, they were true to their word, and I fucking heard nothing. And me and Josh have the only producer credits on that movie. We came in on budget and on time, and you know, fucking much to their surprise, did everything in the script, which I don't think anybody thought we could do. You know,
yeah, man. Yeah.
And they get 2, and they were kind of like, well, what are you going to cut out? And it's like, nothing. I'm just going to figure it out. And I fucking figured it out, which, you know, is a blessing and a curse, because now people are going to be like, well, you did this for 2. And it's like, yeah, but I wanted 7. You know, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want a $10 million movie and then have to go make it for 3. But do what you do, you know. Every movie less money than I want. I figured it out. So that's just the fucking way it is, I guess.
And what was the Mind's Eye? What was the budget on that?
A little under 400,000, like 380 maybe.
And I saw, like, just in the trailer, like, you like flip a car upside down and stuff.
Yeah.
How much does that cost? Like, how do you set that up?
Yeah.
Well, we shot that in New England, so like again, that's the thing where like people see it in a script and they get scared, and like producers are just like, well, we got to cut that out, and it's like, why did you fucking actually look into it? No, you didn't, because you're a fucking lazy asshole who's just gonna sit there and be like, well, no, this way. Cars
are expensive.
That's a problem with producers too. Most producers now, I mean, it pisses me off so much, because you look at something like fucking Terminator 2, and James Cameron's the only producer on the movie. Now you've got a movie of fucking 2 people in a house hearing sounds, and there's 35 producers on it. It's like, this isn't how fucking movies are made, guys. And a lot of the problem with these producers is that they've never actually fucking done filmmaking. They just come in, they're a fucking exec, and all of a sudden they're producing a movie and they think they know shit. But like, I've made movies from the ground up. I know how, like, that's the benefit of having a filmmaker who is a producer, or being a producer who's fucking worked on set, because it's like, a lot of these people are just like on VFW, they're like, well, no, you can't do that. And it's like, what do you mean? They literally told me on VFW that they couldn't afford a haze inside the bar. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I own a hazer. They're $100 on Amazon. And they were like, well, who's going to run it? And I was like, I'll Velcro the remote to the fucking camera and press on. And I fucking haze the whole entire movie. And then the producer's like, this was only $100. What the fuck? Why don't we have haze on here? And I'm like, what is wrong? You guys, oh my God, this is mind boggling. So like the car thing, you know, people are just like, well, we got to cut that out. It's like, we shot that in New England. We shut down a road. We paid a cop for 12 hours of his salary to fucking sit on each side of the road. It's like, what, $500. We bought a beater car.
Wait, so 2 cops, like one on each side?
Yeah. What do they make? $25 a fucking hour? A big deal. And then we put one on each side of the road. And then we bought a beater car for like $1,800, and we got a stunt driver and paid him $1,000 to flip it. And then AAA was like $200 to fucking tow the car away. Like, it literally cost like $2,800, and we flipped the car. And it's like, yeah, that's the thing, is that people are like,
wait, but how did you flip it?
The stunt driver flipped it. Like,
I mean, what do you mean?
We paid him
just give it,
and they, you know, just set up a little ramp and fucking flipped the car.
There's a ramp.
Yeah.
Like, did he bring the ramp?
Like 2x4s and like cinder blocks or some shit. It was, I mean, it was literally like it
fuck yeah, though, man.
And how did you find a stunt driver in whatever random town you were in?
Yeah.
We got our stunt coordinator from Boston, because we shot in Rhode Island, and you know, we got this guy who was a stunt coordinator for shit that shoots in Boston, and he kind of just read our script, and he was like, we, you know, fit his days around whatever HBO show or David O. Russell movie he was doing, and he came down and did our shit. And I think he was excited that, like, you know, me and my friends are like, let's flip a car and we're gonna throw people telekinetically through the air, and then we're gonna blow this up. And he's like, all right, well, let's figure this out. And I think he was excited by that. And you know, you hire a stunt coordinator and they have all this equipment, and you have to pay them their minimum wage anyway, which is like $800 a day or something, SAG wise. So it's like, you know, you work with it. That's what I mean. Is like, it's like, well, we're having the car crash. Let's figure it out. Oh, it only costs $3,000. So now it's like, in this movie, I'm like, well, you know what, guys, I've done car crash before. So now it's like, blow up like 4 of them.
Yeah. Let's get into that, actually, because that shit looks so good. And I was like, oh, that was the other thing. I was like, man, like, I have no idea how much money this movie costs. You know, normally you kind of look at stuff and you're like, okay, I can figure it out. But like, you know, walk us through the ambulance crash and then the explosion.
Yeah, well, the good thing about the ambulance
of Christmas, Bloody Christmas,
of Christmas, Bloody Christmas. Yeah, sure, yeah.
Like there's a lot of ambulance action in that. So there's like space and then the crash and then it blows up. It blows up twice. So that was just by nature of like it's the same vehicle. So we bought 2 ambulances so that we could have, and then we only used one of them because I did it in a way where it wouldn't get destroyed.
And just like a total dumb question, but like, where do you buy an ambulance?
Our production designer had like, he was also vehicles and he just searched around and, he had done movies, he's a production designer by nature. He's actually my production designer at VFW too, but like he just has car people and it's like, are there any ambulances for sale? So we just find ambulances for sale and we found 2 of them from, I don't know, Texas maybe. And, we just.
And how much is that? Like 10 grand an ambulance?
What was that?
How much does an ambulance cost?
I think it was like 15 grand for both of them. And then we didn't even use one. So we sold it after for like 10 grand. So, and then the cars that blew up are just like the cop car. It was just a shell of a car. And then, we had a team who was basically in charge of a fire and snow who was on set the whole time. And I told them what I wanted and they worked with a stunt coordinator. They cut the car in half. They put barrels of gasoline in it, which is all it is, just barrels of gasoline, however much fucking gasoline costs. And then we had the stunt driver go through it, and it's just a timed thing. They cut the car in half, and then they bolted it and welded it back together, and put like railroad stakes through the ground so that when it split in half, it wouldn't fly. And it was so funny because the guy was like, a car wouldn't bust in half like this. I don't think it's a good idea to do that. And I was like, it's going to look fucking awesome. He's like, yeah, but realistically, that's not what would happen. I was like, okay, well, the robot driving the car would, bust it through. And then we did it, and he's like, oh, it looks fucking awesome. That same thing. It's like, it didn't really, the nature of, it's a shooting day. It's almost a whole shooting day, which I guess is a big cost. But the thing is like, you do something like that, and then, right before lunch, you split a car and blow it up, and your crew is like amped, and then they're fucking working on overdrive the second half of the day. So, it's another thing, just because I had done these cars things before, I had a general idea that it's not scary to like wade into it. Let's figure it out. And, we fucking figured it out. And then the same thing at the end, like that was just a fucking car that didn't move or didn't have an engine. They just put gasoline barrels in it, fucking blew it up.
Have you ever done like a big stunt, like one of these things where you get one take and just been kind of disappointed in how it turned out?
Probably. I'm trying to think. I've just like learned to live with things.
Because like that's happened to me a lot. We're like, oh, this guy's gonna fly in the air. This thing's gonna explode. This car is gonna crash into this car, and then you're like, yeah, that didn't have the impact that I was hoping for. And they're like, well, we told you get one take.
Yeah, I think I've been generally. I think also like the things I try and do are so ridiculous that like, like on Mind's Eye, I wanted the car to barrel roll like 7 times and it only flipped once, and it's like, yeah, that still looks cool.
Yeah.
I guess to your credit, like I might have been like, if this coordinator is like, yeah, this isn't really how it would work. That like, a car wouldn't split in half, and be like, well, how would it work? Okay, maybe we can go with that, and then it would not look that cool because it's like, a lot of times the reality of like what it looks like when you blow someone's head off is like not.
The ambulance hits a car and then all caps it splits in fucking half and explodes. It's like, well, yeah, that's exciting to read, like, and it's going to be exciting to watch. Just think about the visual of it. The camera is going to be here and you'll see it. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I try to never compromise.
Yeah, man. I love it. The other thing, how many cameras did you have rolling on typically do you have on a big stunt like that?
That was 3.
Yeah.
I have 2 cameras, 2 16 cameras, and my DP on that movie owns one. So that was our package for the movie.
Which camera is it?
We had 2 Arri 16 SR3s, which are our main camera, and then I have this Aton Minima, which is a 16 camera that's literally like this big. It's so fucking awesome.
Like the size of a bread loaf for listeners at home, give or take, or a football maybe. Yeah.
Good,
but then you have to put the film mag on top of it.
Oh, that's with the film mag. It's a 200 foot. And it's also a daytime mag, so like you can just load it wherever. You don't gotta go darker, but load it. And it's really light. And I bought that for Bliss because there's a lot of shots on Bliss where the camera's attached to our body. And in Christmas, that's also the camera I use for the POV. I did all the POV shots, but It's so light, and the wide lens, you put a huge wide lens on it, and in that camera, like that's what Gaspar Noé shot all of your reversible with, because it's so light you could throw it around everywhere. And thank God I bought that. I bought it with Bliss because nobody in LA rented it. It's literally like the most advanced, smallest, and lightest weight 16 camera imaginable, but they only made like 200 of them because digital came out. So I bought one on Bliss for like $6,000, and now they're like $35,000. And that's the same thing. Like my SR3, I bought for like, I don't know, 14, and now they're $40,000 over like a few years. Like, because there's only X amount of film cameras. That's why I don't know why any of these companies don't just start making them again, make a fucking killing. But anyway, I don't know why I got into that. But yeah, so those are the cameras that we use. That's our basic package.
Killer. Yeah. I think I feel like I would be like, well, what if I put a GoPro or two in there as well? And then,
Well, I've never done that because I know that it would suck.
Yeah, it would suck.
Good, and then it would suck if it was in there. So like, I sort of want to myself the option.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's funny because you're like also the DP or at least the operator. So you're like, I mean, I think many of us have worked with DPs that like will not let something into the lens that they think might be used that they hate.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, just shoot, just point the camera down.
Like, come on, man, just do it once. I just need it. Yeah. Hell yeah, man.
And how much, sorry, just for 200 feet, I'm just curious about this Aton Minima. How many, you said 200 feet of 16 millimeter film. How much shooting time do you get out of that?
6 minutes.
6 minutes. Okay, cool.
And then the SR3s, the 400-foot mags are about, that's like 1155.
Okay, cool.
11 seconds or so.
Crazy.
And that's crazy, man. Where did you shoot?
We have all the mags preloaded, so it's like if we run out of a mag, it's like you just pop it off.
You just pop it in. Yeah.
It's like a battery, literally. So again, it's like, as long as your film loader or your AC has the shit preloaded, like it's running out of film on a mag is not a big deal.
No big deal. Yeah, and I've heard people talk about how there's a rhythm to it as well. It's kind of like when you used to have like smaller cards. There's something nice about like, okay, the immediacy of like, we've only got 5 minutes left on this mag, so let's just get it done right. You know what I mean?
The fucking mag runs out in the middle of a take.
Sure. I mean, that happens on digital too, though, man. Because I think the other thing, like to Oren's point, like how much footage do we have that's just like, okay, hold the like still rolling, and then you go fucking talk to the actors for 5 minutes, and then come back to monitor. Well, and then call action.
Actors for
yeah, because the truth is, and maybe it's different with film, but like still rolling is kind of director code for like nobody do anything. I don't want you to like wardrobe, hair and makeup. Like we're in the moment. So if I cut, then all of a sudden HMU is going to come in and like, brush somebody off or like fix a collar or like somebody's going to go get a fucking snack or something. So that's the truth. That's why you do it. Right. But it's like, because you can't say nobody fucking move, cut, walk over and say, like it just doesn't. Or maybe you could. I don't know. Maybe I just have to train the crew a little bit better. But like,
I do that.
It's a communication
thing,
thing.
Right. I try to do series just because. Yeah, once you cut, like 100 notes are coming in too. So
yeah. That's the other thing.
It's like you want to keep your momentum, and it's different when you're making your own movie.
Yeah,
because you don't get 100 notes after a take.
Yeah. Oren and I do a lot of commercials, so like there's a fucking tent full of client and agency people who, as soon as I call cut, are going to come tell me to like ask someone to smile more or like say the brand
towards the lens a little bit more.
And you're just like, no, I'm just trying to get this joke right real quick,
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the practical effects? Obviously, you created a lot of heads, like copies of actors' heads.
Mm-hmm. You're splitting people in half. You're gouging eyeballs out. Yeah, walk us through that a little bit.
Again, something that I believe a producer would think is very expensive to do, but you're doing it like over and over and over again in these movies. Like, how do you do that on your budgets and like and so fast?
I think it's just I think it's a kind of a thing too where it's like you figure out what your budget is. We've usually do like 10% because my movies are so effects heavy. It's like 10% of our budget usually goes to makeup effects, and that's actually kind of been true all the way through. Pretty solid number, but it's more or less like, I want the moon, and almost every single time, I've laid out to my effects people. I've used the same ones 4 times now. Um, Josh and Sierra Russell, and they just did the new Hellraiser, but that was their first big movie, and then they went right into this, and it was like our first bigger movie together. But they have the independent sense too, and it's kind of just like we just figure it out, and I show them how I want to shoot things, and it's like really just having a vision of, not a vision, but like having an idea, a pretty specific idea of how you're going to shoot things, because if the effects people know you're going to shoot something from very specific angles, and you show them those angles, it requires a lot less build on their part, or like maybe this head doesn't need to be as detailed, stuff like that. And I don't know, I just kind of work that shit in and figure out how to shoot it, and sometimes it doesn't look as good as you want, and you have to be malleable on set and figure out how to shoot around that.
Do you storyboard those sequences that you need practical effects for?
Yeah, some of them. I had the most storyboards in Christmas out of anything. Because I storyboarded all the robot shit, because we don't have to specifically know what we did and didn't need. And then the heads, it's kind of just like, we had to do some of those, like the head crushing on the stairs. We actually reshot that in LA. I rebuilt the fucking staircase, a piece of it, wrapped it in thing, and shot it in the garage. Fucking the head split because it didn't look good the first time. But
so you have had an effect that didn't look, that you were disappointed.
Yeah.
There you go. You just shot it again.
Yeah, that actually has happened a bunch of times. And then one of the things that I do with effects is I also specifically figure out ways that we can shoot certain effects not in our main unit. Because I own the cameras, and because I operate, and because I can make it happen really, really with a small crew. There are big effects scenes, especially in Bliss and VFW, and a couple of things in the Christmas movie that we just shot with 3 or 4 people. And then actually, for instance, the robot scene at the end, because you guys have seen Christmas, that robot scene at the end with her was 2 weeks of shooting. In the first week, it was the last 2 weeks of shooting of the movie. In our first week, I storyboarded it so that we shot everything with the actress and the robot in the same shot, or everything with the actress. And then cut almost our entire crew, all the actors, or her, everything, a really big skeleton, or a really tiny skeleton crew. And then we went back and reset up the record store to its original thing, and then spent the second week as a skeleton crew, technically a second unit week with 6 or 7 people. And then I shot all of just the robot specific shots of just the robot doing certain things, so that we could then spend time on that we didn't need to do. So that was an 8-page scene that we ended up shooting for 2 weeks, but one of those weeks was way cheaper because now there's not 30 people.
Dude, that's so fucking good. I love that so much.
I mean, it also sounds like you're like the AD of your movies in a way.
Yeah, it's the way that I work. I think I don't know if I simultaneously piss people off or make their jobs easier, but my scripts have the lighting in them, camera shots, and I just, in my mind, because of how on Bliss, we didn't even have an ED because that movie was 8 people. And on this, my ED was kind of it's I want somebody to tell me what time it is and where things are. I don't want somebody to tell me how to shoot something. Tell me, hey, you've only got 4 hours left, and let me fucking figure out how to shoot it.
Right.
I want you telling me how I'm going to shoot the fucking movie. Just in order to get a green light, we needed to submit a budget and a schedule. And I always do my budgets and schedules. VFW, obviously, somebody else did, but then I ripped them apart and they fucking went with mine. But on this, I did the budget and the schedule, and of course we had a line producer AD come on, but they used my original budget and schedule as all right, here's
the blueprint. Yeah.
Because the UPM is how the fuck the line producer is how the fuck are you gonna? This is impossible. And I'm like, well, I guess this isn't the job for you then. So I'll find somebody who isn't willing to say that, because I'm telling you it's fucking possible. Just and again, I don't need you to budget things for me. I just need you to tell me this is starting to go over budget. What do you need? I want that stuff. I don't want somebody to, because again, I'm so ingrained in how much things cost. And, I think it's such a big thing to be a producer who's also a filmmaker, because I know that my scene's going to be better if we spend money here and not here. Where other people who are producers well, this is the way I make movies and this is how we usually do things. And it's yeah, well, I don't fucking care how you usually do things. Here's how I do things. I'm telling you, I don't need that. I don't need a script supervisor. Like, I've never used a script supervisor. Fucking waste of money. The one time I had one, they're like, that's not even get the fuck out of here. Like, I waste of fucking money.
I love that you not only do you not have a script supervisor, but like are you monitoring how? Forgive me, it's been a long, like, I haven't shot 16 since film school, which is a long fucking time ago. So who else can see what's happening on screen? Just you? Just the camera operator?
It depends how fast we're moving.
Yeah.
I have HD taps set up to my.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. What am I thinking?
Like a wireless, like a Teradek type of deal?
Yeah, and like, the 16 cameras or film cameras, they have a tap, but they always would look like VHS or whatever. But I actually had HD ones installed, so it looks like the fucking red when you're looking at it, like the monitor.
Cool.
But my secret that my cast doesn't necessarily know is I have a monitor that can record on the monitor, so it's record. So like, you're not looking at the 16 space phone camera like that they put next to the thing, so you're seeing the exact frame, and it just allows you playback. So like, my producing partner Josh, he's also my editor, and he's on set with me the whole time. And it's like, if there is a question, more so if you're shooting on digital, it's like there's even less of a reason for a script on digital, because it's like, hey, can you bring up that shot? And fucking all these producers want dailies on their iPads that they don't fucking watch. So it's like, bring up the fucking daily on an iPad in 4 seconds. You can look at it. Oh, let's have was the cup like that? I don't know. Bring it up, motherfucker. Oh, there it is. See, like, I don't, you know what I mean? It's just, the technology doesn't need, and me, because I'm the camera operator and we're shooting, like, I just, I don't know if it's a cocky thing, but I just feel like I know what my frame was. I know where I picked up. I know, and it's never let me down. And there's times when it's like, yeah, let's double check that. And within 5 seconds, my editor can bring it up, So yes.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. I love it. I
don't want to say who it was, but I did a podcast, and one of the people on the podcast is like a teacher at a film school. And I'm saying all this stuff, and they're like, well, this is not what you should be telling film students. There's no good way to make a movie. Like, I'm just gonna be fucking honest. I don't know. Like, sure, that's not for everybody, but that's how I do it. I don't know. What do you want?
Yeah, man. Well, and I guess have there ever been instances when you're in the edit where you're like, dang, I missed that? And has it ever really been a problem?
Sure. I mean, that comes up, but I think that's not like because of that situation. I think it's more like, oh, I wish that I had gotten this insert. I thought maybe it would have played without it, or maybe it would have played differently. But there are a lot of times when I can just go and, shoot those inserts, or like shoot things to get around. And it might not necessarily be what I would have done if I fixed it on set, but there are ways to fix things,
Can we talk a little bit about like just acting and casting and performances and stuff? Like, in Christmas, you have Riley Dandy, one person that's very much like in every single scene and kind of carrying the movie, and has like a pretty intense performance, like almost from like the very first frame. Like, she's either arguing with people or yelling at people or fighting with people or having sex with people or running away from people. Like, how do you prepare for stuff like that? And I mean, the whole cast, obviously once, the killing starts, like, everyone's pretty serious, like pretty intense. Like, can you tell us a little bit about like that, like kind of what you tell your actors and like how you get kind of these performances?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of it's on the page, and I also work with a lot of the same actors. So like, in Christmas, everybody besides Riley and Sam, who are the two leads, are people that I've worked with before, or that I'm friends with and have wanted to work with. So a lot of it comes from, like, as I add more people to the stable, I write roles specifically for them that I think that they can embody. And with Riley and Sam specifically, a lot of credit does go to RLJ and Shutter, because even though this is a $2 million movie, they were non-cast contingent. They let me cast whoever the fuck I wanted. Which was huge, because with a movie like this, because like it is such a specific role, and I mean, she's fucking playing me basically, which I think that she very quickly learned, and I think spending 9 weeks, together in a tiny town, she was able to kind of sponge my personality, which helped her riffing on certain things.
Where did you guys shoot?
What was that?
Where did you shoot?
Yeah, it was very
Placerville. So
wait, you said Placerville?
Yeah.
Dude, my parents used to live in Placerville. That's so funny. That's fucking wild, man. That is really crazy. I can't believe I didn't. They'll be excited to hear that. Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
So like when because it's so specifically me, you know, when I was, and that's another thing too, is like since they didn't need me to cast a name, which, you know, I was very much against. You know, I don't want to offer this to some fucking stupid WB actor, some shit doesn't want to do it because it is such a specific role, and I want to see them saying this shit. So like, you know, I got a really great casting director, Amy Renee, who casts like, you know, Jim Cummings and shit like that, like a lot of really kind of voracious indies. She got the material, and I just, you know, she fucking auditioned a ton of people, and I narrowed the list down, and Riley was like able to nail the Pet Cemetery 2 monologue with such conviction that it's like, well, surely this would convince people to watch Pet Cemetery. Like, this is fucking like, it sounds like me, you know, giving a late night rant to my friends. And then, you know, she was able to nail the monologue. So she's able to do that. And then in our second round, it's very important to me, like I was talking about, that that they can take new dialogue on the fly or the riffing. So like in the second round of auditions, I kind of gave her new material on the spot, see how she did it, and then I acted like, you know, the other actor in the scene to see how she would riff. And I mean, she was riffing stuff that sounded like I had written it. Um, and it was kind of that where I was just like, not only is she nailing this stuff in like the almost exact tone, but she's like riffing very, very instinctually and
And you're
realistic.
doing this like in an audition room?
Fucking Zoom. I wish it was an audition room, but it was on Zoom, which was awful because I also couldn't do chemistry reads. So like I had to go off of my, you know, instinct that they would have good chemistry together. So it was just that. And then it's like, you know, I had to have a very serious, like, it's hard because once somebody's good at that, it then has to be like, just so you know, this is how I work and this is how it's going to be. But I'm going to be, and I think me being the camera operator goes a long way. And she, you know, always says this, but like the fact that at the end of the movie, she's getting covered in freezing cold water on a 20-hour day and doing all these stunts. It's like, well, I'm going to be there on the camera getting soaked. I'm not going to wear a fucking wetsuit. And then every stunt that she would do, it's like, you're going to jump off, you're going to fall off of that thing on the ground. I'll do it first. Oh, you're going to stab this robot and it's going to explode. I'll do it first. Oh, you're going to drive that car around a dangerous turn. It'll be me and you in the car. And I'm going to be on the hood with the camera. So like, there was never a moment where she thought that she would be doing something that was, like, if I wasn't doing it with her. So it's like, and that's another reason why I love being the camera. It's like, we clear everybody the fuck out of the room. It's me, the camera, and the actors, and we all have the floor. And like,
no boom ops.
What was that?
No boom operators.
If they're in my way, I tell them to fucking leave. It's so annoying too, because it's like, well, we need good sound. It's like, okay, cool. What about those $10,000 labs that are fucking attached to all the actors? And it's like, oh, we can't do the 360 shots as a boom guy. I'm like, okay, so I'm not going to do a cool shot because the fucking boom guy doesn't know how to do his job. Like, okay. Well, and then, you know, on this movie specifically, I had really bad boom up in the first half. And then the second half, like, who was saying shit like that? Like, well, and I'm like, well, okay, we'll do it on last. Get the fuck out of the room. And then we had a second boom up because I think that one got so mad that I just kept telling him to leave. And the second boom up fucking boomed the whole movie, and I probably saw him once. That definition of a great boom up.
Yeah, they're like the ninjas. I have the sound guy I worked with, Josh Bissett. I don't know if you ever remember him, Matt, but he was like we would do a whole feature and no one would know him at the end of the feature. This guy's like the best sound guy I've ever met.
No, that's a good call.
No, they're like, "Where's Josh at the rap party?" Like, "Oh, forgot. Is he on this
party? Oh, that's the boom guy."
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you very well, guys.
Can I say about the driving for a second? Because I've shot, you know, actors driving and acting before, and I've, you know, usually it's fine, but sometimes, you know, they're like not that comfortable driving, you know, on a real street and stuff and acting. Obviously, the driving you're having these people do is like insane. No windshields, you know, broken glass, like blood all over their face, nighttime lights flashing in their eyes. Do you use process trailers also, or like? What's your, like, tell me a little bit about shooting driving in cars.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we just drove and I was like, all right, here we are. And I don't know, you know, she was excited about all this stuff. And the ambulance, specifically at the end, we actually did have a stunt driver there. We hired a stunt driver and we hired a stunt coordinator was going to play Santa, but we got there and Riley was like, did the first take and she was like, well, this is awesome. And then she just ended up doing every single take. And same thing with Abe, who was Santa. Like, because I'm, you know, when he's on the back of the ambulance, I'm also strapped in the back and I'm like holding kind of on my shoulder.
Yeah.
We're both shooting and like, it was fucking awesome. And I'm
yeah. Actually, you're reminding me. So there's a shot where Santa's hanging off the back of the ambulance and then you pan across the ambulance. There isn't a cut, is there? Where you, and then you get, wait, so how did you get that shot?
I was in the back of a car.
Car to car. Okay, yeah.
The road shut down. So
sure.
and we just had one of our effects guys. I was in the back of his pickup, and we were speeding along, and that shot wasn't planned because I thought that Riley wasn't going to drive. But once she started driving, I was like, all right, well, we need this shot. Obviously, we need to do this shot, like where we can see both of them in the one thing. And yeah, we had a blast, and it was just like, yeah, we had a road shut down. I'm in the back of a pickup. My DP's operating B cam. There's a fucking snow machine. There's a van with a snow machine strapped to the top of it in front, and we're just fucking driving up and down. And then I'm like, all right, strap me into the back of the fucking thing. I want to be there, like, operating with him while I'm hanging off the back, and then throw me in the back and let the doors flap. And it was a fucking blast.
Wait, the snow machine is shooting snow in front of you guys, so it looks like you're driving through snow.
Yeah. The whole movie is actually really. Here's another thing too: is everybody's like, "Well, how did you have the budget to do all this snow?" The snow machines we used are like $200 on Amazon, and we had 2 PAs just.
What's the snow? Like soap or something?
Yeah, it's like literally like the shit that you kind of equivalent of like car wash stuff. But when it's cold, it sticks and it looks like snow on the ground. But yeah, I mean, that it's literally a fogger, like a fog machine, and they put a certain solution in it. It's the snow. I don't know. Again, on Amazon, so it's snow fluid. I just typed it in.
Sure.
You put like a pantyhose over the. It's like a little condom over the fucking.
like the nozzle or whatever. Yeah.
Does something where like it pushes through those little holes and it pushes the soap out and makes it into snow. Yeah, so that was actually one of our most logistical. It was cheap and easy, but the second the wind changes, and then like if you're doing something like on the walk and talk, obviously the sun's gonna be falling in front of them, but I have a wide shot, so you need to not see the snow machine. So it's like just figuring out the logistics of that. But I mean, that was literally just PAs that whole movie with 2 cheap snow machines.
Did you shut down the town effectively? Like, what was it like shooting in a small town that you're not from? Has Hollywood come to town for them?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure as you know, Placerville's a very divided town. So we've got half of it's MAGA people and half of it's just chill people. So like at first the MAGA people are like fucking Hollywood coming and fucking town, for a fucking town. Even though we're bringing $2 million to the fucking town.
Sure.
But like we would just shut down the Liar's Bench, which I don't know how familiar you are with Placerville, but the dive bar on Main Street is Liar's Bench. So we would just shut that down fucking every night we had off, and a lot of the town people were super cool, and they would come out and watch stuff happen. But because we shot at night, overnights the whole time, the fucking place shuts down. Like that's another thing that sucks. The place shuts down at 7 p.m. So we'd sleep all day Saturday and Sunday, and there's nowhere to get anything to fucking eat because everything shuts down at 7. But because of that, it was like very easy for us to shut down the streets and
you could take over anything then.
Yeah, it was. I'd never been there. I wanted to shoot close to LA, close enough to LA where I could do pre-pro here because everybody came from LA, and I didn't want to like spend 8 weeks of pre-pro there. So I was kind of going back and forth up until we shot. We didn't need to worry about tax incentives either, so I was like, I just want to shoot in California. But I had never been there, and we were scouting towns all over California. Me and my police department drove through like 30 of them, and it was so wild. That was the last one, and it was almost like I wrote it for that town because that fucking Main Street, besides those 2 houses up in Pollock Pines or whatever, we spent 6 weeks on Main Street, and like the record store was just an empty building, like an empty white room that had a for lease sign, and then next to it was a fucking building that looked like it used to be a police station that had a for lease sign on it, and then 3 fucking buildings down was this giant toy store that somehow is able to survive in this tiny town that is like fucking FAO Schwartz, and then the bar that was just an empty bar on top of the record store thing. It was just like it was supposed to originally a 2-thing complex, and like they just never ripped out the bar, so I was like, oh, look, these 3 places are for lease. We called them up, like, can we do like a 3-month rental? And then we shut down the street, obviously, or when we were doing the walk and talks and anything that wasn't chases, we were able to shoot on the street, but we couldn't shut it down. But nobody was driving anyway. So for like 6 weeks, it was literally like the fucking Universal Studios backlot. It was like we just rolled to fucking Main Street. It's like, oh, I'm going to go check on the police station. Oh, okay, well, here's our staging today. Or here's our, where we're eating lunch, or here's our fucking production office today. It's like over here. And like, we just literally, me and my 20 fucking friends who were making the movie, we just hanging out fucking on the street, there's a fucking weed shop right in the middle of the street. The fucking bar's open till 2. Everybody's just partying all night and fucking shooting the goddamn movie. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, man. Living the dream, Joe.
Yeah. I want to ask one more question about the driving scenes just because they're so good. Like what do you have like a speed that you feel like is like a good speed to drive that you can still make a car look fast, but still, the camera's not like bouncing all over the place and you can still stage things and block things. You're not running out of street to shoot on.
Well, it's hard to say because I guess we use such shit cars. Every time I've done a car scene in a movie, they're flooring it. So it feels much faster. And Yeah, so just go as fast as possible. And then you tell Riley, so go as fast as you feel safe, and she just fucking punch the gas and floor it. And I'm the operator, so I'm just like strapped in, and I don't, I don't have to worry about somebody else bouncing around or something because I can do that. And then you just put on the widest. I also found on this, if you're shooting exteriors, tight lenses look good, but if you can get a super wide lens and get up close, it looks even better, like Mad Max style. We were shooting some of the stuff like when she's running over Santa, and it's like I put this fucking like almost a fisheye, like the widest you can get without a fisheye, like seeing
the like vignetting
with everything coming at you on that super lens, like with the snow, it really kind of gives you an effect that you're fucking flying. But I mean, honestly, they were probably going like 35 in all the driving scenes. It's just that those cars were so fucking shitty that was top speed.
Yeah. I feel like 35 is kind of the sweet spot where it's like everyone has very clear control, but it feels like you're going pretty fast, Like 35 miles per hour is actually fast, just relative to driving on a freeway or whatever. It's different.
There's a scene where there's this big military truck and William Sadler is actually driving it. So you get William Sadler driving this thing, and I wanted an up close shot of his face, and the sun was coming up, and we couldn't have time to rig, a fucking stupid grip on that movie. I hated him. He didn't have time to. He's like, well, it's gonna take too long to rig something to the car. So I was like, so tell me I got William Sadler, driving a military convoy as the sun's coming up, and I can't shoot his face driving the military convoy. And I was like, well, I'm just going to go up and hang onto the side of the convoy and shoot in the window. And the producer and the stunt coordinator like, absolutely not. You will not do that. We'll shut down production. And I'm like, oh my fucking God. I was like, okay, whatever. So I went up to Sadler and I was like, hey, I'm going to jump on the car when I call action. Okay. So I went back and I had the camera on my shoulder and I'm like, action. I ran full speed up onto the convoy, grabbing the thing. And the fucking thing, and he just busted through a fence and I shot the whole thing. And the producer's like, I swear to God. I'm like, what are you going to do? Fire me 2 days before we finish? Whatever. And the shot looks dope. And it's like,
did you use the approach too? Did you get the run? Did you use that or no?
It looked like I was
like it. Yeah. Still, man. Fuck yeah.
You're shooting mainly handheld?
It depends on the situation. I used Steadicam for the first time on Christmas.
Right, like the whole opening sequence, right?
Zoom work. VFW was like the first 20 minutes I put us, because that's like 7 actors, and the first 20 minutes of that movie of them just bullshitting at a bar. So I basically, and we shot that movie in 18 fucking days because it was so low budget. And on that movie, I specifically just got a 10-foot slider and I staged it in a way where I could shoot 2 cameras and basically nail pop-off coverage.
Like you were operating both cameras?
No. My DP was on the second one, but like it's like I'm going to be the main on the slider, and then you pop off these lines. So like we were able to get 12 pages basically in a day. And in handheld that wouldn't have worked as much. But other scenes where they're actually walking around the bar and that I did handheld, and I also like that because it's almost like you're a dancer on the stage there. And it was like, okay, well, we're going to combine these 3 scenes and do 9 pages at once. And let's figure this out. And it's like, you're literally like, it's like a dancer. It's like you're walking over here and then I'm going to whip this way and I'll have B camera grab that because I'm going to be moving my camera over here. And we're going to do all top lighting tubes with a lot of neon practicals. That's also why I like doing practical. Like a lot of my practicals built in, and then we can just use key lights. Like I shoot a lot of Asteras too. I love the LED film combination. So it's like, you get all the practical lights in frame and it's like, okay, we'll just pop an Astera off to the side, just give it a little bit of extra, edging or something like that. I would say probably 50% handheld my movies maybe, but also it's if you go on a wide enough lens, I like to shoot on a 6mm lens on 16. So even if you're walking around,
wait, did you just say a 6mm lens?
Yeah, it's probably like a 14 or something, right?
Yeah,
for 16, it's about it's probably about a 10 ish.
10.
And I'm trying to find the widest I can get without fisheyeing. I just found a 5.5 that doesn't fisheye. That's a little bit wider, but so all that, not all the POV stuff. Some of it's anamorphic on Christmas, but yeah, the 6mm, a lot of Bliss I shot on the 6mm. A lot of the movie I'm shooting right now has POV stuff that I shot in the 6mm lens. It's my favorite lens. It looks fucking incredible.
So
and
you don't care that the human eye doesn't look like like you don't want your POV shots to mimic the human.
Well, or a robot. Right. A robot's field of view might be wider, right?
I don't know, man. I think 2.5 with the 6mm it looks pretty close to my eye.
You have incredible peripheral vision.
Yeah. I feel like my peripheral vision is far too narrow.
But so you have like a scene in Christmas Bloody Christmas where, I mean, there's a lot of crazy destruction, lasers, like insanity happening. But just an example of one scene is like when the ambulance crashes into something and like someone flies through the front window. Like, I guess if I had that stunt and a shoot day, I would probably allocate like at least half the shoot day to doing something like that. Like how fast can you do a stunt like that?
Yeah.
Where you have a body, whether it's a dummy or a real body or whatever, like flying through a window, breaking glass at night, you have to light it. Like how long does something like that take someone like you?
Well, that scene specifically, we had the crash into the car, then the body going through the windshield, and then an explosion. So we kind of did all three of those things back to back, and the scene was lit because it's a parking lot, like for all three essentially. But with that, like we piled all that stuff into the first half of the day, and our lunch would be like midnight or whatever. And because everything after that was dialogue, we were able to have our stunt and effects team come in earlier and set that stuff up before the crew got there. And like I got there early, obviously, and I had storyboards for that. And we saw like we did tests to see how it would work, and we knew how this was work. The biggest fucking time suck on that was we had 3 windshields that was breakaway, and so we could do it 3 times, and installing the breakaway window the second and third time after the crew setting. It was the longest fucking thing, but it was literally like a crash test dummy that you could buy online.
And is it a real, like, are you launching it or pulling it?
So basically what they did was they put like a piece of pipe between its legs that stuck out just a tiny bit, but it went through the whole body. And then they put it on an air cannon so that it was connected and pointed at the windshield. And then basically it would be like a thing where it was like 1, 2, 3, and we had like a winch or whatever that would like nudge the car so that it would have that thing. And on 1, 2, 3, it would go boom, and then they would hit. When they felt the car nudge, they would hit the fucking like Acme thing, a big red button, and it would shoot through the glass and fly out.
Fire the pneumatic cannon dummy.
Yeah.
And the dummy is actually breaking the glass. There's nothing separate breaking the glass.
Breakaway glass. It's like soup, and that was also so fucking long to install because you have to be meticulous to like, and it had to. But yeah, it was breakaway glass, but it was a pretty hard dummy. And that was another thing is like, the practical effect guys like, well, I don't know how you're going to do this because windshields are really hard to get through, and we can't have breakaway glass because if somebody went through a windshield, it would just be a hole because they're meant not to shatter. It wouldn't shatter. And I was like, nobody's going to care. And then I watched this movie called Body Parts while I was in pre-production, and it was just like I just got the new Blu-ray, so I had it on. And there's a scene where that motherfucker, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it has one of the coolest car crashes at the beginning. The guy hits a thing on the highway, and his body flies through the windshield, and they show it from like 4 different angles, and the fucking windshield explodes into a million pieces. And I'm like, I'm like, told you.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks about the fact that, wait, that windshield shouldn't shatter. And it's like,
sure.
The weird, practical, realistic things people think about. It's a fucking movie. It's a killer robot movie. I don't care how windshields realistically fucking shatter, dude. Like, calm the fuck down.
And what was it? Another situation where you're like, well, let me just see how much breakaway windshield glass costs?
No, because it's gonna. At that point, it's like a windshield's $200 anyway, or $300, and you have to have the guy
somebody
it to install it anyway. So it's like, I don't know, it's probably $200 more or something like that. But if it was a real windshield, that's the thing, is it wouldn't go through because they are meant to not shatter. So It's like, that was the thing, is he was like, I don't understand how I manufacture something that it can go through, but also replicates what I'm like, dude, just break my fucking glass. Who cares? Like, and on my first couple movies, it was so low budget that we made breakaway glass, and it's just sugar and water, and you cook it in the fucking oven. But like on this, I don't have an oven big enough to make a windshield. But like on my first movie, I was making them for like side windows. And
fuck yes, Joe. That's fucking so awesome. That's so hardcore. Like it's truly inspiring to just be like, oh, I'm just going to go make my own breakaway glass is so fucking awesome, dude.
Well, because
is it the same as sugar glass?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Though, listeners at home, if you ever buy breakaway glass from like a prop shop or whatever, it's not sugar. So don't eat it, and tell everyone not to eat it, because inevitably someone will be like, oh, this is just sugar glass. Let me taste it. And then they're like eating plastic or whatever. It's like bad for you if you buy the real stuff.
I was doing it for car windows on my first movie, like side windows, and they didn't fit exactly. I was just making big squares. So it was just like tape it, and then you cut on the shatter, and nobody could, like, there's fucking gaps, but like you cut, and outside, somebody's putting their elbow, and then you cut inside, and the glass is flying at the fucking camera, and I forget that it's a square.
Fucking awesome.
You know?
Yeah. That is fucking awesome, man. That's so great.
Yeah, I come from the Peter Jackson way of filmmaking, where it's like you just fucking figure shit out. I think that's what lends itself to now. Even though I have a couple $1 million, I'm still just doing things that way, but putting my money into robots and explosions and like,
right.
Oh yeah, I've got $2 million. That doesn't mean I'm going to hire 80 people and fucking,
Well, Joe, we'll have to have you come back. I'm sure you're going to have 6 more movies in the next year. So, anytime.
This one, I got to get this one off my fucking plate.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
What's next? Is the plan to kind of keep directing features? Like, would you ever like produce, write, or do TV or anything else?
I don't really want to do TV unless it's the right thing, because I don't want to join the DGA. And also I have a couple of friends who went into the TV world and became very comfortable, and they make less features now. I don't want to get hypnotized by that. Try not to set myself up for that. Writing, I would be down to write something like, as long as it was something I didn't want to direct, I'd be okay, or like that I wouldn't feel bad about putting my name on. But I think a lot of people think my strengths are directing, so nobody's really going to hire me to write anything, but I would. I've went out for writing jobs before. But I want to stick with features. It's definitely my main thing. I love features. I love cinema. That's, why I do this. I'd love to do music videos of bands that I like, but it's so annoying because like my reps are like, well, a lot of music video directors want to direct features too. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I think it's harder to direct. Like, I don't know. Isn't it more appealing to bands like that? A feature director wants to direct a music video, like there's nobody's directing, $50,000 Mastodon videos. Like, why can't I go direct one of those?
Sure.
And also, like, because I write so many scripts that don't get financed, or I write more scripts than get financed, like I had more time practicing writing, and I wish I could practice directing, or like not practice, but like if I have an idea for shots or like little things, I'd rather be able to like get in the field and try that shit out in an experimental way, that and not have to wait every 2 years to make a movie, or every year or whatever. But just by the nature of the game, I put so much time and energy into features. It's it's a long time to write something and try to get money, and I usually just don't have time to kind of pursue other stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, that's an exciting career you have, and it obviously sounds like you really enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, it's a hard job, but I love it. It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, man. Well, do you have a few more minutes to hang out and endorse with us?
Sure.
Unpaid endorsements.
So, I got this Nespresso machine. I've been making, whatever, coffees. And for my kid, I talked about the baby chino, right? It comes with this frother. You'll be disgusted, but I put like half milk, half and half, and then I froth it. I put like vanilla in there, and I just like bought, vanilla off Amazon, Joe Begos style.
I hate to sound like I'm endorsing Amazon so much. I fucking hate Amazon, but they're so easy and like.
Yeah, no, everyone has a love-hate relationship with them.
Yeah, I think everyone's in that boat of like, oh God. Oh well.
Yeah.
I mean, what else? Are you going to go to Walmart to get your fog machine? You know what I mean? Like, it's the same fucking problem.
So I bought like that thing that they have at like all the coffee shops, like the Torani vanilla syrup. It's like in this big pitcher, and it comes with a pump. And I just feel so cool when my daughter comes over. She does like a pump of vanilla into her baby chino, and it's just a real living the high life here. So I guess I'm endorsing the Torani vanilla syrup with the pump. You only have to buy the pump one time, then you just buy the vanilla syrup. But I am like someone that does not drink any sugar in any of my coffee drinks, but for some reason, like started putting a little vanilla in my coffee, and it makes me kind of happy in the afternoon. Only in the afternoon. Not fucking around in the morning.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. So Torani syrup is your endorsement. I mean, I don't have anything. I told
you it's a really bad one.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Joe.
I guess I'll endorse what I think is my favorite movie of the year so far, because I think it's criminally underseen. But I've had such a busy year. I'm trying to catch up on fucking movies that I missed this year, but I'm shooting and fucking releasing a movie. I'm trying my best. But there's this movie that I watched a couple months ago called Dinner in America. Have you guys heard of it?
Yeah. Remind me, what is it?
So it was at Sundance in 2020 and took forever to get released. I think I know why now. Watching it, it's pretty politically incorrect, but like not in a bad way, I guess. It's just, everybody's so touchy nowadays, but like it's this really kind of sweet but punk gutter punk comedy. It's almost like Heather's. It says this in the trailer, so I hate to say this, but it's like Heather's meets Napoleon Dynamite. But it's honestly like a really good fucking. And it's just this great movie where it's this dude who's in a punk band and he wears a mask and it's a super underground punk band and he kind of just couch surfs and he meets up with chicks from the shows and stays at their house, and it opens up with like him staying at this chick's house and the dad's super racist fucking asshole, so the kid ends up burning down the house, and like it's just middle America, like the worst of the worst, like shit towns in middle America. And he goes around and he has this girl who's like a huge fan of his who sends him Polaroids of like her masturbating and like fucking orgasming, and he doesn't know who she is and she doesn't actually know who he is, and he ends up meeting up with her at a festival or a show, an underground basement show, and crashes at her place. He doesn't know that she's the girl who sends these pictures, and she doesn't know that he's the singer of the band, but he finds the Polaroids and they end up finding that and she's like this super nerdy chick and he's like this fucking crazy like anarchist punk dude, and they end up kind of like just running off together, and it becomes like this thing where like all the characters are just like, at first it's like they're all like the worst fucking assholes, but then like they all kind of grow, and by the end of the movie it's like, I don't know. It's just it's a type of movie that's definitely not made anymore. It felt very, very, very Sundance early '90s, like a movie that.
Yeah, Pat Healy's in it. Isn't he in every Sundance film?
Kyle Gallner, who has never stuck out to me before, like kills it in this fucking movie. And it's just really good. It's on Hulu now, and Arrow put out the Blu-ray in the UK, which is where I first saw it. But now it's on Hulu. But like, yeah, I think more people are talking about it now, and slowly now that it's more available. But like, I don't think anything stuck with me that this year so far that much. And I'm not sure what else would. Doesn't really seem like there's a lot of things on the horizon. I'm seeing Avatar tomorrow, which I'm super excited about. But I think after I walk out of the theater, I won't think about it. But yeah, Dinner in America is my unpaid endorsement, because I feel like indie movies like that need all the eyes they can get.
Hell yeah, man, that's cool. Yeah, so my unpaid endorsement is Weird, the Weird Al Yankovic story, which you can watch for free if you just go to Roku.com, but you do have to watch a few commercials. Yeah, that is the deal. There's not that many of them. Mostly it's upfront, and then there's maybe 2 ad breaks in between.
Are they in good places? Like
they're in good places. And also like, it's a film that's not so immersive that like you get pulled out of the world of Weird Al when the ad comes on. Do you know what I mean? I think he's like so saturated in like Americana and pop culture that like, I wish they'd done a couple fake commercials like they used to do, like in UHF. Like if there were a couple they style commercials, like kind of wrapping around the Roku commercials, that would be the fucking best. But they were busy. It's really fun. It's really zany. If you like Weird Al, then obviously it's for you. I really had a great time. As a person who loves the other parody biopic film, Walk Hard, it's a great doubleheader right there of just like straight up zaniness and funny songs. So if you're on the fence on it, I would say go for it for sure. It delivers exactly what it's promising. So
yeah, I'm gonna watch it for sure.
Yeah, watch it with your kid, man.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I don't think there's some gun violence. I don't know where you stand on that.
Is it interesting enough?
I think it's real goofy. Okay. Yeah. It's silly. Weird Al sometimes has kind of like he'll go weirdly dark, like surprisingly dark. I don't think any of that is in this one. I think it's pretty straight laced. I guess he does. There's some drunk driving stuff that's like over the top, but
my daughter's into that.
Yeah, she loves it. Joe was operating. He was on the hood of the car as Daniel Radcliffe was driving around. It was crazy.
Like, Joe, we'd rather you not be. Well, cool, man. Thanks. Are you on social media? Obviously we found you on social media.
People have just finished listening to this interview. They want to keep track of all of the cool shit you're doing. What's the best way to look you up?
That's my name on Instagram and Twitter. I'm not as active, I guess, as people tell me I should be, but I pop around. I'm on there sometimes.
Yeah. Cool. Joebegos.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thanks, Joe. If you have questions for us or the show, you can hit us up at Just Shoot It Pod across all social media. Email us at justshootitpod@gmail.com. Write us a review on like iTunes or Spotify. That helps the show grow and would be really appreciated. And you can follow me at Mr. Matt Enlow.
And I'm at O'Kaplan on Instagram. I'm at Smitey Pyleg on Twitter. And this episode was edited by Noah Bayshore. Our producer is Tyler Smalls. The music you're listening to is from the Free Music Archive and the artist Jazar. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.